You're listening to Experience Imagination, a themed entertainment design podcast presented by Falcon's Creative Group. Every episode, we discuss a new topic with a panel of creative professionals. Hi, I'm Cecil McPurry, President and Chief Creative Officer of Falcons.
Hey everyone, this is Abhinav Narayan here for another exciting special event episode. On October 19th and 20th, right here in the city of Orlando, the Creative City Project is hosting the event IMMERSE 2018. Falcon's Creative Group was honored to be selected to provide the interactive experience sponsored by Orlando Health. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's a really exciting event, more than 1,000 artists and performers, and over, I think, 40,000 people are expected to attend. It's really about bolstering and celebrating the artistic and creative community of Orlando. So we have some really exciting panelists to briefly talk about the event and some of the experiences that we helped to create. First, we were privileged enough to meet with Cole Neesmith, who is the CEO of the Creative City Project, as well as the host of the Entrepreneur podcast, which is an awesome podcast. He's a great guy, and our team member Jesse was able to go out and speak with him. So I'll let Jesse take it away.
I'm sitting down here with Cole Neesmith from Creative City Project. We're just days away from IMMERSE. Cole, where are we and what's about to happen here?
Yeah, right now we are actually sitting in a building that's housing an installation called the Worlds of Corksicle. It's a big 3-story building with 12 built environments that audiences can walk through and explore these installations, interact with them, and maybe even take some pictures inside of them. So we're right now on the first floor of that, surrounded by several installations.
So tell us a brief history of the City Creative Project and your role within it.
Creative City Project is an organization that I started. It really just started in 2012 with me just calling a bunch of friends and saying, hey, come out and play your guitar or do a dance on a street corner. And it started with us just going out and doing stuff, and no sound or lights or permits or permission or anything. We just started making art in the public spaces of the city. And here we are 6 years later. We shut down Orange Avenue, Church Street, Pine Street. We'll have more than 1,000 artists and performers this year and an audience of about 40,000 people. So it's grown really rapidly. And, at the heart of what it is that we're doing, it's intended to cultivate the artist community here in Central Florida. And for the people who call Orlando home, to help them love living here even more. And then on the global perspective, help shape the global perception of the place that we call home as a place known for innovation and creativity.
This year, Creative City Project partnered with our company, Falcon's Creative Group, to create the Art of Athleticism. And it's an interactive experience for IMMERSE presented by Orlando Health. Can you tell us a little bit more about this experience and how it came to be?
Yeah, so we've been partners with Orlando Health for the last couple years, and one of the things that we've focused in on in that partnership is this idea of the body being a work of art. And so when we started talking to them about, okay, how could we create something that really kind of amplifies that idea and takes it to the next level, we started talking about, okay, what if we made this environment where people could go in and use their bodies as essentially giant paintbrushes. And so that's when we came to Falcon's Creative, and we said, hey, this is the idea. And so over the last several months, we've been working together to create some interactive digital media that allows people to use their bodies to digitally paint on these giant walls of this inflatable structure that we've created that's 60 feet long and 25 feet wide and 20 feet high. And so it's going to be really exciting to see our audience get in there and move around and use their bodies to bring that space to life.
Awesome. What do you personally hope IMMERSE will become in the future?
So our big vision is a 4-day event by 2020 that creates amazing experiences like the ones that we're creating this year, whether that involves technology or these cross-genre collaborations, but also incorporating in national and international artists, whether that's performing artists or installation artists, and creating an event that truly does become a global destination and hosts more than 100,000 people in 2020. So next year, 2019, we're looking at how we expand from 2 days to 3, and then in 2020, a 4-day event that really creates a lot of momentum and has such compelling experiences that people begin traveling to experience what it is that we're making together.
That's cool. So obviously a huge endeavor to pull together with all the people and the space needed. How did you get the city of Orlando on board with this?
Well, I would say that our biggest champion at the city is a guy named Thomas Chapman, and he is the director of the Downtown Development Board. And even in 2012, when it was just a bunch of artist friends going out and kind of renegade arting, he took notice, and he called me into his office, and he said, "What is this thing that you guys are trying to do?" And at that time, it was nothing. We weren't trying to do anything. We were just going out and doing what it is that we were doing. There was no big grand vision or, big plan. There was no organization. There was no nonprofit. There was no, corporate designation. There was nothing. It was just a bunch of artists doing stuff. And since then, Thomas has continued to make a way for us, because obviously we have to collaborate with the fire department and the police department and traffic control and parking and all kinds of people in municipal government who have over the years, we've just taken this journey together, and they're beginning to understand the big vision, and they see what it is. And we truly couldn't do what it is that we do without the cooperation of the Downtown Development Board and the City of Orlando and Orange County government, and to some degree the state of Florida government. And it's been a fun, oftentimes trying and difficult process, but it's been really wonderful to be surrounded by people at the city level who really do care about this place we call home and want to see it be amazing.
Absolutely, and also just the engagement you have with local artists. Can you talk a little bit about that process and just how you get them involved and that kind of thing?
We're really fortunate to have such a vibrant creative community here in Central Florida. And we as a programming team we don't have to go out and pull teeth and, beg artists to be part of this thing. We're really fortunate that not only do we have a lot of talented artists, we have a lot of collaborative artists who really care about creating interesting things and getting out into the public spaces and the streets of the city and bringing them to life. And so I find that our creative community really resonates with this idea of facilitating meaningful shared experiences for the guests who come to IMMERSE every year. And so every May we put out a call to artists, and a lot of those artists, respond to that call, and we work hand in hand with each of those artists and those arts organizations from May to October, from concept to execution, and refining the idea and understanding what's needed from a technical perspective, and walking alongside of all of those artists until all of it comes together and comes to life in October.
That's great. So you talked a little bit about the interactive tent from Orlando Health and Falcon's Creative Group. What made you decide to collaborate with Falcon's Creative Group? What was that process like for you?
We as an organization, the Creative City Project, at the beginning of the year started producing a podcast called Artrepreneur, and it's been a fun process. The whole podcast is designed to help artists make creativity their career. And so we do some interviews. We talk to artists about where they are in their process, maybe some of their challenges, maybe some of the lessons they've learned along the way. There's a lot of practical advice. There's marketing advice. There's things about, how are we being disciplined? What kind of habits are we? So there's all kinds of this stuff in the podcast. And it's been really amazing. It's meaningful, and that's actually how we connected, and then got the opportunity to come and spend some time with you all, and now we're making awesome stuff together.
That's awesome. So if you're an aspiring artist right now, and you're kind of coming up in this city or inspired by what you see at IMMERSE this weekend or whatnot, how do they become part of this movement that you've started? Like, what advice do you have for this kind of next wave of artists coming up?
Give time every day to the thing that it is that I say I want to do, and really understand and clearly identify, what's the one thing that I want to pursue with my creative career, with my creative passion, with my creative craft, and to give myself over to that on a regular basis. One of the things that every single one of my creative writing professors in college said was, if you want to be a full-time writer, if you want to be a professional writer, you have to write every day. And I think that expands to anybody who's trying to do anything, whether it's a creative thing or just starting a company or having a family or being a healthy human being. We can't casually come in and out of our deepest passions. They have to be things that we give attention to every day. So we'd love to collaborate with artists next October, and we'd love for more artists to respond to that call to artists in May. But really, that's just one small bit of what is it like for you as an artist to give yourself over to your creative craft every day.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time. Your work here is inspirational.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to having both our listeners and even our studio staff that's helped make this project.
Yeah, of course.
Attend IMMERSE.
Can't wait to have you. See you there.
All right.
Thanks again to Cole for a fantastic conversation. We are now going to switch gears and talk about one of the interactive installations that Falcons is contributing to IMMERSE 2018. I'm joined now by our interactive team, Andreas Latourette, Benjamin Allen, and David Consolo. Andreas, how's it going?
Doing well, thank you.
Ben, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. And David?
How's it going? Very well.
So we're here to talk about the art of athleticism presented by Orlando Health. So first I wanted to ask, how did this project come to be? Andreas, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. So we had heard that one of our other employees was working with the Creative City Project to do an interactive art piece, and then he heard that Orlando Health was looking for someone who could bring this art of athleticism to life, and basically from there we just kind of started working with them to make this cool project.
Fantastic. What were the initial goals for the design of this project, the art of athleticism?
So initially they asked us to make sure that there was some sort of user integration, not only in the sense of the player or the user gets to interact with this art piece, but they were present in the world that we were creating. So that was kind of the first stipulation, at least.
So to backtrack a little bit, the art of athleticism, what does the final product look like right now on a high level?
Right now we're looking at something where you as a player have to really engage with the content in order to see the full potential of what it has to offer. And that's where we're fusing this athleticism with this interaction, because you don't necessarily always have to be very active to interact with something like this.
What will players see? What visually does this look like?
So right now the theme is really very painterly. So the players will see a representation of themselves that's slightly abstract, but as they continue to interact, they will be throwing paint and be depicting pretty much whatever they want to onto this environment that we've created for them.
And this is like projected on a wall?
Yes. So we have several projectors, and it's going to be a very large space. It's going to cover most of, if not entirely, the space that we have.
What was the process like to get to that concept? How did the idea evolve?
First of all, the most important part was getting the player to be active. So not just sitting, or standing still and then kind of moving their arm around to touch points or something like that. We wanted them to really engage fully. Mm-hmm. So we thought if they can see themselves and see themselves in almost a fantastical way, they're more likely to really interact and engage with this content. So that was kind of how we began our steps towards where we are now. And then after that, we decided the player really needs to have something that they can just express themselves freely and almost let loose. Because today, everyone's very stressed and very uptight. And this is a chance for them to really just kind of enact the fantasies of making a mess and having fun doing it while also being active at the same time.
I know, Andreas, you worked the most on this project, but for the entire, all the interactive guys that we have here, what is technologically unique about tackling this kind of a project?
The interface that we're using is a Kinect, and basically allows us to track the human body in a virtual space. And we have multiple walls that we have to track and multiple users that we have to track. So the scale of it was the biggest thing we had to tackle. But there's multiple Kinects, multiple computers, all synced within each other. The scale is huge. That's the biggest.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks, David. A big nature of this event that's coming up this weekend, at least at the time of recording, is that it involves a lot of experimental technology, as well as a lot of really artistic freedom of expression and creativity. So I guess I wanted to hear, what do you think you're most excited to see taken from this project and applied in future projects that you work on? Ben?
Well, that's interesting. I think one of the big takeaways we can get from this is that the takeaways we've gotten from previous projects have helped us immensely with this one. I was really impressed with, once we started, how smoothly and how quickly everything just kind of came together. Using Unity and the Connect SDK, we were able to get the technology implemented very quickly and have it working on our end. Programmatically, the systems were relatively simple, and once we got minimal art direction and we were able to kind of move around in there and feel it out, get feedback, and then alter it and update it. And everything just went so smoothly, like I can't even begin to say how easy it was. Well, not easy, but so it just was so smooth that it felt easy.
Yeah, so it was a really good validation of the process that you're developing as you venture into new territory, and
Absolutely.
it's just kind of refining that process further and further.
Yeah. And in this specific circumstance, making the outcome of it being easy is actually means that you're doing it right, and it means that it's going to work, because it can only get harder from there.
With interactives, I know a big part of that development process is in play testing and running through different iterations of the original concept. Could you talk a little bit about what that process was like?
It's funny you bring this up, because it's a unique instance where to play test you have to use your entire body in order to get the interactivity to work, and that requires more physicality than a programmer and artist might be used to at any one given moment.
It's not just your hands on a mouse and keyboard.
Exactly. So you iterate on something, and then you have to physically get up and flail around to see the full range of motion and how it interacts with that. And that's a good way to kind of lead into our next thing. As far as working on this has been very interesting, because in interactive media, you have a lot of work you do with shaders and texturing and particle effects. And having all of those different elements now reacting to the way a person moves is completely different than when you're a traditional video game where you have full control over the way the player moves to the space. So that's been a really interesting challenge, but also really fun to kind of figure out and see, okay, well, how do we push this further now? This thing that's well established within interactive media, we push this by getting players to directly affect how it's, the outcome of it. So that's been a really interesting part of the iteration process as well.
You have to kind of account for the variables of, who knows what people will do, but
Exactly.
whatever they do, it should have some sort of feedback.
It was nice because we're kind of an open office, so people will walk by our testing station, and we're able to in real time test how it will be on site.
Hey, come over, wave your hand.
Exactly. Whether we want them or not to walk past our media, they're going to do it, and that actually opened our eyes to a lot of different variables.
Yeah, that's I remember myself. I was walking past and being able to notice, like, oh, hey, what are you going for here? And being able to have those conversations with fresh eyes. I'm sure it's a lot of information, but ultimately the final product looks amazing.
Thank you.
Where can people find the installation?
I believe if you look at the IMMERSE map that they have provided, we will be in pavilion number 6, right next to the Orlando Health Art of Athleticism kind of area. So that would be the best place to see this in action and try it out yourself.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
For our next discussion, we are going to be switching over and talking to Jesse Allen, who you heard a little while ago interviewing Cole, as well as Charlie Gicha. Both of them are team members of Falcon's creative group who actually collaborated on a personal project that will also be showcased at IMMERSE 2018. Say hi, Jesse.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. And we're here with Charlie.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good. So we are here to talk about the Seraph. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
All right. On a super high level, what is the project? How would you describe what the Seraph is? Jesse, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. The Seraph is essentially a projection mapped sculpture. So you have a sculpture of a six-winged seraph angel, and it is augmented by projection, both media, like traditional media, video, whatnot, and fully interactive media. So stuff mapped off of the Unity game engine onto it.
And what, for those of us who don't know, is a seraphine angel. Did I say that correctly?
Sure. I'll let
Charlie, you want to take that?
It's a great question because no one actually really knows what a seraph angel is.
Ooh, okay.
It's a mythological angel, according to scripture, that is the highest of the angels. So you have all different classifications of angels, archangel, and so on. But most of the illustrations behind them highlight the fact that they have this six-winged structure and a massive glowing light within.
There's the visual component of how it's subjective, which is it's a sculpture of kinds, as you put it, Jesse. What is the interactivity, first of all, real quick?
Sure. So that's like the coolest part about it. So there is this. You have the Seraph Angel, which sits about 5 feet from the guests. They have a golden podium that they walk up to, and there's this like book with a bunch of hieroglyphs in it. And I'll let Charlie talk about the actual symbols of it. So one of the elements in the book, it's like a controller, is a microphone. So if you talk into it, it changes patterns on the Seraph Angel itself. There is a leap motion controller. If you move your hand around, it will make all the feathers, basically the virtual feathers, realign themselves depending on how your hand works.
It's pretty cool.
So all of the symbols are painted in electric paint, and if you touch any of the symbols, it changes the programming on the projection. So it'll tell you a different story depending on the symbol that you choose. And I'll let Charlie talk about what the symbols are.
I'm a real nerd about symbols and when it comes to iconography and how that portrays story. And so much of these are from mythological texts from around the world, going back to ancient Mesopotamia. Each symbol has its own origin, but it has its own reveal to what the angel could portray, which goes back to really creating a universal experience.
Charlie, I want to hear your thoughts on the R&D, and maybe you can talk to this. At some point, I want to circle back on interactive paint, because that sounds super cool.
Oh my god, it's the best. Jesse and I previously worked on a project with the Bear conductive paint to create an interactive painting that you could touch and it would augment sound, which was fantastic. But then this is the next step of taking it to that fact that this paint is not only augmenting that, but it's augmenting your visual space, and you have control over that. But it's very dense and thick. And when you actually apply it, it won't flow like normal paint. It almost flows like, for anyone who paints, like a Mod Podge or like a sealant. It has a very dense form to it, and it almost bubbles up. So when it actually finishes, it flattens out a bit after it rests, but it's just a very different material to paint with.
In the simplest terms possible, for me, being a total amateur at all this, what actually defines it as interactive?
In this particular case with the Seraph, we have connectors that run through the book, and the paint goes over the connector. And then on the other side of the connector is like a little alligator clip that connects this little metal post. And that goes to an Arduino board. Mm-hmm. Now, in the original, if you just buy it off the shelf, that Arduino board is set up to be just controlling audio. But I wiped the board and I put in new code so it would start to send command data, so like MIDI command data. And so now when you touch the paint, it goes through the alligator clip and it arrives at the board. It says, hey, this is trigger 1. And then it turns it into a MIDI command and sends it down a USB line. And then all of a sudden on the laptop side, I can put that into any system that I want.
Last question, what has been your favorite part of this project, or your favorite takeaway? Charlie, you want to start?
The first time I saw everything assembled and we put light on it, I think that was really a really magical, neat moment of seeing everything come together.
Oh, hey, it worked.
Yeah, I'm really big. I always when I finish something, I'll put it up and I don't look at it for 30 minutes, and I'll walk away and I'll come back and take a look at it.
Yeah.
And it makes that first reveal oh my god, we actually did something.
Good validation, yeah, especially for something so experimental.
Yeah.
Jesse?
So, this has been really hilarious because it is a home project. So I had to clear out my entire living room and tie up all my lights up on the ceiling and stuff like that. And one night I was out there programming it, and it was in a pretty good state. And my granddaughter came through, and she saw it for the very first time and just was entranced by this thing. It just wow. And I said, well, try some stuff. Just go up to the book. I didn't even tell her how to use it. And, intuitively, she starts touching the symbols and watching, like, things change. And,
Wow.
I could just tell her by her expression, it was just, total sorcery. Like, she had no idea, but she was having a great time with it.
powerful.
And, that's cool. And then, of course, the other cool part is just learning. That's kind of been the thing about our company here is that, you got this room full of like crazy creative people and from completely different backgrounds. And those little lunchtime conversations when you're like, I've got this crazy idea. And they're like, hey, I could do that. And that kind of collaboration, both at work and outside of work, is, so unique. That's just a true blessing.
So we're hoping to get this episode out before the actual event. So in case anyone's listening who is in the Orlando area, where will they be able to find the Seraph?
So the Seraph is going to be set up at IMMERSE, which is taking place in downtown Orlando, October 19th and 20th. That's this Friday and this Saturday. We're in a tent right outside of the History Museum of Orlando.
Yeah, the History Center downtown. For anyone who knows Wall Street, it'll be close to there. But if you go down to Lake Eola area or downtown, you really can't miss it.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Looking forward to seeing it in
pleasure to be
action. On behalf of Falcon's Creative Group, we just want to say one more time how excited we are to be participating in this IMMERSE 2018 event. It's going to be really awesome. October 19th and October 20th. More than 1,000 artists and performers and over 40,000 people are expected to attend. We feel very fortunate to be able to contribute to the Orlando art community and to continue to cultivate and grow this awesome opportunity. So we look forward to seeing it become bigger and better every year. Thanks for listening.
This has been Experience Imagination. For more information about this episode's discussion, be sure to visit our blog at falconscreativegroup.com. And don't forget to follow Falcons Creative Group on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.